Monster Hunter Rise, Bethesda, and Microsoft finally hugging it out and coming together as one with the largest fist bump pretty much in gaming history, and of course, Aliens Fireteam and more. Today, we're going to do the gaming news. Got a bunch of different stuff to cover. If you get a chance, subscribe. This sponsored video is, well, not sponsored at all, because as you guys know, I don't do that. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, maybe spread it around. Let's begin. Alien Fireteam, a third-person game set 23 years in the future on the USS Endeavor. You take on the helm and autocannon of one of 4 different classes of Space Marine fighting aliens off your ship. And this is from Cold Iron Studios. This is not new news. However, what has been released today, and IGN is doing a great job leading the charge here by Ryan McCafferty, they've discussed some of the various different creatures that you will be going up against. 20 different creatures with 11 different xenomorphs. And today we got to see a couple of those. We got to see some that we expect, like the bursters. Now, these are enemies that explode on death. We've got the drones, who are the worker bees of the alien hive mind, and the Praetorians. These have armored heads. Think of them a little bit like alien goats, just headbutting you to death and then taking a nice FaceTime video as yours melts off. And of course, you have the creepy prowlers. These guys are a little bit new. Close range, deep red carapaces. They're up-close fighters of the alien world with excellent boxing skills. Imagine basically getting attacked by George St. Pierre and then he punches a hole in your sternum. Runners are sprinters, moving quick, and shotguns are the best way to take them out before they punch a 6th hole in your head. And then, of course, you have spitters. Now, yes, spitting is disappointing regardless of what lot in life you're at. Maybe not here, though. They dance and juke around the battlefield, throw an alien spit at you to make it so that the others can take you down. I like the idea of all these working together. What's interesting here is that is 6 of 11, leaving almost half of the alien xenomorph types themselves completely unknown at this time. This also reminds me of classical and somewhat comic book driven alien creatures in the novels and the comic books, with the suicide organ, for instance. This is constantly held in check by the alien's biochemistry, and upon failing on death, it then explodes. Will we get to see that deep into the lore with this game? I do not know, but I think now is the time for it, and I would love for something like that in a game like this. I was a big fan of World War Z, and I feel like this game is trying to do that, but with the Alien franchise, and I think this is a perfect mix. You got your doctor and recon gunner and your technician. The game also adds mutators. Now, these allow for the game to slightly adjust as you continue to play it, which can alter both the enemies themselves and their abilities, as well as requirements for killing them. Look at this game and you think to yourself, man, it's been a long time since we visited the alien world like this. And the last time we did, it was pretty much Alien Colonial Marines, which sucked. Something that doesn't suck, though, Monster Hunter Rise. Well, at least its performance on the Nintendo Switch, as we've seen with some of the demos. A new beta comes out March 11th, and then the game will come out March 16th for the Switch, and at a later time for Windows. Now, Monster Hunter Rise is considered a major sequel in the title, despite it being a numbered entry, or in this case, not being a numbered entry. We've got all kinds of improvements and adjustments to the Monster Hunter franchise. I'm actually more and more excited about this as I see it. Not only will it be following a different character in different locations, but as the developers have discussed, the game adds in new monsters, keeps the open world gameplay, and also throws in a new piece of equipment called the wire bug. Few things are as exciting as mixing huge creature hunting and Indiana Jones, but that is exactly what Capcom has done with the wire bug here. It's a mix of basically an electric whip that lets you swing around the world and gain access to all different kinds of locations. However, Capcom has also stated that it will let you combine the wire bug with some weapons in unique ways, adding moves to the weapons themselves. Of course, we're going to have all the weapons from the Monster Hunter World game. You're also going to have a brand new creature, the Palamute, which allows for you to ride around. It's your dog companion, and you won't be losing your Palico. That'll be there as well. You can play with up to 4 people, and if you don't, you can bring on one of the creatures with you as you go it solo. There's also a rampage mode in Rise, which allows for you to basically do a survival mode with you defending a village from monsters, and has the ability for you to control and somewhat lead the charge, having the villagers follow your orders on attacks so that you can spread your different resources to different enemies as you're defending that village. Really interesting stuff, especially as this is a premier game for the Switch itself and not for the other consoles. We don't know much about that exclusivity, but we do know the Windows version is planned in sometime around 2022. That's too far in the future. Let's talk about something that broke just now as I'm doing this, or at least a little bit earlier. Bethesda and MS are hand in hand. The United States and the EU have both basically signed off on this. This morning we woke up to this. It's a firm fist bump from two companies announcing their joining was authorized by nations. That should show you how big of a deal it is when nations have to come together and think to themselves, man, is this actually okay? From Tango Gameworks to ZeniMax, from Machine Games to Arcane, and of course that plucky little upstart id Software and its brother Bethesda Game Studios, MS has just brought into existence one of the biggest families of game companies ever for its platform. And of course, the question is always going to pop up. What does that mean for the new games? All of the big wheelin' and dealin' folks at the companies did their little announcements and their little tweets, but I want to read something that was written by Phil Spencer for Xbox Wire. I'm going to read just a small snippet of this and talk about it. And of course, it deals with something that is tried and true, very important for gamers, which is exclusivity. He states, this is the next step in building an industry-leading first-party studios team, a commitment we have to our Xbox community. With the addition of the Bethesda creative teams, gamers should know that Xbox consoles, PC, and Game Pass will be the best place to experience new Bethesda games, including some new titles in the future that will be exclusive to Xbox and PC players. Why did I read that? Well, because as you guys know, the exclusivity deal ends up becoming a pretty big situation and discussion for a lot of gamers. However, one thing I want to point out, if you read that very closely, there is something that is missed there, and it's pretty glaring when you understand how they discuss other systems. And that's the fact that they did not mention streaming and they did not mention Android and iPhone. And the reason why is because that last little bit, including some new titles to the future that would be exclusive to Xbox and PC players, as well as him stating that it would be the best place to experience new Bethesda games. Why do I bring this up? Well, it's because of the way it was written. As you guys know, streaming and technically Android and at this time iPhone are considered separate platforms. This allows for Phil and Xbox and Bethesda to basically be like, yeah, some games are going to come exclusive to the PC and Xbox. What they're basically stating and what I've got from this is that for the most part, you're going to see exclusive games just be for what you would consider, what you and I would consider the Microsoft platform stage. That includes streaming, iTunes, or Apple, and Android, and of course the Xbox and PC. The reason why I bring it up that way is because that would have been mentioned there at some point. It is a massive part of their industry. It is a massive part of their overall future plan, and that fits with what I've been talking about through the grapevine, that as well as a couple games not really coming to the other consoles within the expected stable of games, you might think so, but also that the expectation is that in the future, Android and Apple and streaming and Microsoft's overall idea of that is to see if they can basically leverage that to offset the purchases or the losses that may suffer from not being on competing consoles. And people don't realize it. Microsoft has consistently pushed mobile devices as a future for them. And this is a place where I do actually feel like that was written in a very particular way to get around what is a question that a lot of people have. You do have to understand at this time, it's a separate platform. Now, will a title like Starfield be exclusive? It was actually leaked that Sony had been shopping exclusivity for the PlayStation as late as last year, with them basically probably having to foot a huge bill to offset some of that lost development cost. Microsoft instead bought them. You can bet your bottom dollar, at least from what I'm hearing, that that will be exclusive. It's always very important to understand and read what is being written by these companies, but to also understand and track what is not being said and how they go about it. A company like this that's always talking about streaming and getting on to Apple and getting on to Android, not mention it in an announcement like this, especially when Bethesda actually owns 2 or 3 major mobile companies, is to me one of the easiest ways for you to understand exactly what is being said and what is not being said. This is pretty much what I pointed out in the past, especially when you write PR. Sometimes it's far less about what you say. That's it for the gaming news today. There's a lot of big news, especially Bethesda and Microsoft. Stay tuned here. I would love for you to subscribe. Go to the iTunes and Spotify for ACG, the best gaming podcast. You can always thumbs me up there or review me on iTunes. It really does help the channel. I will be having some exclusive coverage here on the channel. One of the first times I think I've had exclusive coverage, as well as some previews. As you guys know, one of the things we cover on the ACG podcast every Friday, 10:30 a.m. is a lot of games early I'm able to talk about and do previews as long as I don't show video. We're going to continue doing that. I've got a couple games that I'm going to be talking about on that channel before anybody else. I would love for you to check it out. Don't miss out. It's very cool to be there. I just want to say thanks to everybody else. Check out the Patreon. Give it a thumbs up. Peace out.